Not technically my channel because the sibling's sleeping and she's the other half of this channel. If you haven't checked out Chalisa's High Maya's video on generations, go do that. She's very cool. I like her. Also, go check out the World Restricted Teacher if you're new and didn't see last night's community page comment. And it's on the community page, so you can go check it if you're new. Hello, everybody. Yes, it's alive. I didn't think I'd do one of these again, but here we are. I prefer video format because I'm not good with public speaking, but here we are. We've done a live. So. Nobody's here yet. Or if they are, they're hiding AFK like I used to. I'm going to be talking about my experience as a millennial and what I think today's society needs to hear a couple things. Anyone wants to ask me questions, go ahead. No one's here yet, or if they are, they're hiding. So, you want to ask a question, or you want to say hi, you want to ask an opinion, or tell me what you think of this and that, I'd like to hear it because I've got some opinions I'll share with you too. I can only share my opinion, folks. I can only tell you my experience, and I can't make you do anything. I can't change your mind or opinion just by you watching me for 2 minutes on YouTube, or however long this live ends up being. Oh, and guys, I hate the editing process where YouTube has to upload, and then it has to do that other thing where it processes. Yeah, I can't stand that. So annoying. As you can see, my hair is a mess. It's not as bad as my room, though. Yes. I don't have kids yet, thankfully, because I would never want them to see the disaster zone that is this room. Yes. A lot of people would seem to get confused. They think us millennials want to abandon every single thing our parents and older generations did. That might be true of some millennials. Is definitely not true of all of them, especially me. It took me 30 years to realize I was in community education, a career I wanted since I was very small. Very small. I'm also considering a pop company, a career in politics, and a career in teaching, but we don't know which one of those fields work out. This YouTube thing is just something I'm doing minor in the meantime. My sister's on here too, but for different reasons. She likes your entertaining shorts, you're making slimes, that kind of thing. She's that creator. I'm the in-face guy. Yes, I am definitely sus Squeaky VR, and hello to you. We now have 3 people. Hello. I hope you're spreading this around. Don't just watch me on here. Go spread it around too, because everyone you know needs to see this. Everybody. Does anyone have any questions on here before I get started with my millennial tale of woes? Because that's the best I can call that. Try online selling. No. What? Yeah, surprising, I know. Yeah, so these gaps in education, and I know many have covered it, they didn't just come up overnight. No, that's not how that happened. I can tell you where some of it started in my generation. I can definitely tell you a few stories about that. And I'm hoping some older generations are watching this too, because they need to see that us millennials may have screwed up, but you guys screwed up first, I assure you. 90s school. Oh, the age of technology. Oh, the horrible technology. Oh, the millennials raise their kids on technology. Yeah, that might be true of some millennials who don't know how to handle themselves right, but I tell you, that technology is not all gloom and doom like some people seem to think it is. Many people would be surprised that a majority of my 90s millennials tech was little toys once in a while that were treats, and the rest of the time I was in my library busting my ass every day to cover the gaps in education that the school could not fill. I was also in my spare time watching many nature, space, ocean documentaries. Anything I could learn about that was interesting was all over my brain at that time. And that includes older TV shows. Many people in the older generations would be surprised how many of their shows I actually know. It's more than you might think. And don't worry, folks, I'll be combing my hair later. It's beautiful, though, isn't it? I'm learning better how to take care of it from some cultural videos I've been watching. And let me tell you, the cultural misappropriation of some of those products where people are losing their products, I'm not happy with that. So, yeah, I'm not happy with that. As someone who was bullied heavily as a kid, I don't like anybody stealing anything, even if it's accidental. So anyway, most of my elementary school teachers name a car for an edit. Okay. I can name several. I can name like the 409 my dad tells me about he had back in the day. I can name like a Bugatti or a Lamborghini that my old high school boyfriend was completely obsessed with. So I can name quite a few cars, but I'm not here to talk about cars. You want to talk about cars? Go watch like 100 car videos and read like 50 other articles on the history of cars. That's what those are for. You gotta do your own research, folks. That's one thing every generation needs to hear, no matter how old they are. You can get all the help from all the other generations, but you better be doing your own research too, and not just taking everything you see and hear at face value. This has been a very painful lesson to relearn over and over again. Let's see, if I'm going to name a car, I'll name some of the favorites of my family cars. We have the Kia Optima that's sitting in our driveway, the GMC Sierra, that's a truck that's also sitting in our driveway, and we also had a Chrysler Pacifica back in the day that I absolutely loved and can't wait to get the new version of when I get to that point. We're still working on a few adult things. Yeah, that's us millennials. We're still working on it. The older generations think we're not trying anything. Nah, some of us are trying. The bad ones ain't trying anything, but most of us are actually trying to be adults. We're just having a really hard time at it. Like every generation before us. Just kidding. Yeah, I also would like to get one of those passenger vans we had as a kid that had the bed in the back. Them things are hard to find and expensive as heck. And I don't care if it's used, it's still expensive as heck. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Yeah, it's bad car, but alright, okay. It depends on how you take care of the car and what condition you get it in. Buyer beware is a very good phrase. You buy, if you're buying as is, if you're buying buyer beware, then you're gonna have problems. Name a car for it. Okay, I'll name a car. SUVs are the biggest gas wasters I've ever seen, but I will never buy an electric car because I also think they're a waste of money and time. That's just my personal opinion. Don't take me to heart if you have those cars. Hey, I'm not insulting you. I just have a personal different opinion than you. You guys are funny in the chat. I can't say some of that because I'm trying to make this channel more family oriented. And believe me, as a millennial, I struggle with some of the parenting styles I grew up with, not to just mouth garbage some of the stuff that is from my previous generation's teachings. Especially my mom. She's very bad at that, folks. Okay, guys. I knew the OnlyFans question was going to come up. First of all, I'm not going to do that in my entire lifetime because I was not raised to do such a thing. If you're doing it, that's fine, but I don't want to hear about it. That's your business, not mine. Yes, it does take hours to recharge electric cars. We know. Guys, I can only tell you my opinion on cars. You have to do your own research and make your own decision, but my opinion is hybrids are fine, gas is fine, electric fine. It's all fine as long as you're doing it in a responsible way. If you're doing it in an irresponsible way and not researching everything you can about if this is the right type of car for you, then you're an idiot. Excuse my insult there. But if you're not researching your car to make sure it's the best for you and not just government or other pressures to buy it, you're not smart. Hello. Hello, Needy. Hello, Paris Beach. Hello, RJ Bricks, Master D, PSA Winter, Chaseless Lay. Sorry, guys, I'm trying. I'm still bad at doing that. I'm getting better at it. I'm still bad. I'm still learning things. I am learning the best I can at 30 years old. This is when a lot of people seem to have a disconnect. You don't just stop learning once you hit 18. That is a rumor, a lie, and a myth that I have lived myself many times over. And I'm only 30. And I still have many times over to relearn and unlearn some of the things I've learned decade after decade. I'm only 30. I'm still relatively young, even though some of you folks, the younger ones, might think I'm old as heck. Yeah, I know who you are. If anyone's got any more questions, that's good. Oh, and don't ever pay attention to those numbers up there because they change all the time. Name a car for it. Okay, I'm not gonna be naming any more cars. Cars are cars. Let's leave it at that. Please, no more car questions. Anyone got any questions about? Oh, thank you. Anyone got any questions about the millennial schooling experience? And that includes every generations. I want to know what older generations thinks we did in school, because I can tell you it's probably not what you thought. Okay, if anyone's got any more questions, I'll tell you a few of my school stories. I can't cover everything. I have a great long-term memory, folks, but my short-term is like this. It's non-existent. I'm working on it, but it's still non-existent. But long-term, yeah. Oh, and let's get this out of the way for some of the younger generations that are more obsessed with this. Here's what I currently identify as, and mind you, this might change in the future. I don't know. I'm just going based off what I'm doing now. Don't hold me to it, because what I identify as now will probably change 50 years down the line. So I identify as a female. I'm straight. I support LGBTQ. I don't care what anyone says about that. I support different races. I'm still trying to ungenerationally learn some of the more questionable things my parents have taught me. That's community people too. And let's see. Straight female, non-neurotypical. I think many of us know what that means. Yeah. Just... And I also am a non-denominational Christian, but I don't push my beliefs on others. You have your thing, and that's what you believe, and I'm okay with that. If you want to come to my side, that's fine, but I'm not forcing you over here. I just am who I am, and if you want to join, that's fine, but you do not have to. I'm very objective, and let me tell you, folks, I get the words objective and subjective confused so many times, and I still probably don't even have the right definition. Just to me, subjective is one subject you're interested in, and objective is many subjects you'll be interested in. And I need to talk about this one. Community and political indoctrination. Some of you will know what I mean. Some of you are confused, like, what the heck is she even talking about? Believe me, I was going through YouTube. Yeah, we use that for research, us millennials. We shouldn't, but we do. But I don't believe everything I see on the internet either. I'm sure some of it's true. I'm sure some of it's not true. I'm sure there's a half-truth in between there somewhere. Yeah. Now, we all know that debate is coming up in a couple days. We all know the debate I mean. I'll remind you, folks, that even though I'm definitely voting for Biden, that's just my personal political opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Vote for whoever you want, but that's who I'm voting for if you wanted to know. Even though I'm voting for him, everyone up there, Biden, Trump, the other minor guys that I don't consider, that some people might consider, they're all spewing out this debate garbage to get you to vote for them. You can do one of two things. You can go watch the debate and make your decision based off that. Well, that's actually one of a few things. You can form your own personal opinion and go based off that. Believe me, I did not do that in my first election, and I regret it. I voted for Obama the first time, and it wasn't just because I agreed with him. It was because there was family and societal pressure to do that. Parents tend to raise their kids to believe what they believe. Community leaders do this too. Then it rubs off on the child and causes them to think, oh, I gotta form this opinion because my parents and my community leaders have that same opinion and I agree with them. When that might not necessarily be true. If you want to really vote in this election, vote for who you think will do the best job based off who is doing the best job according to you. And I'm especially gearing this towards 17 and 18-year-olds because many of them, it will be their first election. And I don't want them to do the same thing I did. This is why I'm calling myself a community educator. I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. Because I can't call myself an official educator. I gotta go to college and do all that fun stuff first. Vote for who you think will do the best job. Don't vote based off societal pressures, or political pressures, or community pressures, or family, friends, and teachers pressures. You get the idea. Vote for who you think will do the absolute best job. Anyone got any more questions before I continue? Because, believe me, the way I talk, I can be talking fast. I recommend anyone here turn on the captions now, because let me tell you, you're going to need those with me. I'm working on it, but you're still going to need the captions with me. I also can't stand videos that don't have captions because I have to pay extra close attention to them. Yeah, that's fun to admit. There's some art on the walls in the background. Believe me, guys, you're seeing the good part of the house. I hadn't shown you the bad part because I still have much to do on that and a lot of paperwork I should be filling out right now instead of doing this. It'll still get filled out. I do reach my goals. I might reach them in a different way than my parents would be happy with, but I reach them still. So if no one's got any questions, and make sure you're spreading this around. Please don't just be watching me on here. Yeah, I know some of you are just watching me on here and you'll go on about your day and never do a thing. I know, because I did that, and I still do. Okay, so anyway, my millennial school experience. Now, I gotta be careful what I say, because some of this stuff can trigger a lot of trauma responses in people I know, because I have lived through trauma, and trust me, I'm not trying to offend or trigger anybody, so if you don't want to hear it, please leave now, and you can come back later, okay? You can review it later when you're in more of a headspace to do so. So, I gotta get into some of my family background too. The glossed over version I'm gonna give you. If I gave you the full version, many of you would be very concerned. Don't concern yourselves. I'm 30 at this point. I'm old enough to have gotten over a lot of it. Yeah, so, as you all know, I'm 30 years old. I was born May 3rd of 1994. Great year, in my opinion. But I'm biased on that, of course. We're all biased about the years we were born and raised. Trust me, that's every human. I'm going to talk about some other things before I get into that subject, though. Now, I'm not sure if this video is true. Like I said, never believe everything you see on the internet. But I heard some schools were removing context clues of all things. Yeah, that's going to help the reading epidemic. No. No, it is not. See, a lot of the older generation seems to think we want to get rid of everything we ever grew up with. No, that's not true. We want to give a newer, more advanced version of it, but we certainly don't want to just ditch everything. We also want to be a little more lenient in our punishments, because some of those punishments you guys gave us are the very things that have messed us up to this very day. Not that we don't agree with some of what you did, but some of it we're like, okay, wait a minute, I don't want that for my kid. And a lot of people are having trouble with that because they can't disconnect themselves from the generation that raised them. And they shouldn't do it fully, but there is some things that need to be thrown away, such as corporal punishment. Yes, many of you are going to disagree on that, I know. They need corporal punishment because the kids aren't behaving. The kids are not behaving because this is a whole new breed and generation of kids. They have many similarities to the previous generations of kids, but they're their own generation as well, and we need to understand and respect that. I'm mainly talking about Gen C, Gen Alpha, and what people are dubbing Gen Tablet. I don't agree with that label, folks. Those folks are 2. They are nowhere near 30, so many of them probably won't even remember that iPad, I assure you. I don't even remember a lot of the tech I'm rediscovering that I had as a kid. I'm adjusting, folks. Yeah, if you wanted to see a real-life human millennial who doesn't just scroll YouTube all day but secretly does, yeah, that's us. That's what we really look like. Yeah, I was looking into all these hair care tips last night. I was going through different videos. I seen all these hair videos, and then, oh, great. And then I seen a different one where, oh, wait a minute, this is cultural appropriation. Yeah, you gotta really research the topics you're into. Because if you don't, you'll, like, steal someone else's thing without even knowing what you're doing, and that's very bad, because then that person, their culture loses that thing, and then they're upset and mad because then they don't have their thing. And that's not okay. That's very not okay. Some of us are very guilty of this without even realizing it. Well, if you didn't realize it, you've at least seen this channel, so now you know. Oh, and folks, I gotta tell you something I learned that I have still had to relearn even at 30. Those nutrition labels in the store on the processed food garbage we put into our bodies, They're there for a reason, folks. They're there for a reason. I just had part of my tooth on this side fall out yesterday because of all my dental issues from stuff I caused myself that had I listened to my parents back in the day, I actually could have prevented. Many of us millennials are very guilty of this, and we don't want to admit it. Yeah, you know your teeth are messed up, and it's not from what your parents did, and it's not from what anyone else did. It's from what you did, not listening to them. I'm trying to go to my dentist in December to see what I can do. I'm hoping they'll pull most of them, and we'll see where it goes from there. So, thankfully it fell out safely, and there was no trauma, but, yeah. That's what's gonna happen if you keep eating that processed garbage. Younger generations, I'm addressing you now. If you keep eating the processed garbage without brushing your teeth, you will gain weight, you will have skin rashes. I have severe eczema, folks. You will have your teeth fall out. I know, many of you don't want to hear this. I know, I was a teenager once too, and I didn't want to hear it then. I wish I had listened, because I wouldn't have the problems I did if I had. So, don't just be generation dumping. And that's a newer term I learned. Generation dumping is where you dump over everything that every generation was or is, no matter what generation it is. It's not cool, it's not okay, and it doesn't help anything. Yeah, and like, I have to not work really hard not to pay attention to those numbers up there because they could not be accurate. Because let me tell you, a lot of the millennial generation spends their time watching videos like this, being AFK while doing 3 other things at the same time. Yeah, I know, I am one. A lot of my generation is probably mad I'm spilling their secrets. Too bad, guys. Too bad. That's what the internet's for. Secrets are gonna get revealed. Secrets are gonna get revealed. Also, I saw that thing where Trump got funded by a mega church. Now, I'm not going to say this of every mega church because it's not true in all of them, and many people do lie about their experiences to get on TV and get money. But some of these mega churches are known for several forms of abuse that I won't go into. Many of you know what I mean. I won't go into the full forms of what those are because I don't want to trigger anybody, but if you're in those communities and you're backing them, maybe do a little more investigation first because many of them are being investigated by the FBI for things that are very illegal crimes, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm going to stop talking for a minute because I talk fast and I have to remind myself to drink water and slow down. Something I learned about myself. Any questions, folks? I'm open to questions. Any generation. I want all the questions. See, I get so... I just have to work not to get mad because you guys are like silent and the questions aren't popping up. Yeah, so I'll go into some more of my schooling experience, and you guys can see what you think of that one. Believe me, this is going to be shocking to a lot of generations. I'm also going to wipe my nose off camera because I can see it's running on camera. Yeah, humans are disgusting, folks. Humans are disgusting no matter what age they are. They're gross. It's called being a human. So I'm sorry if anyone got triggered by that, but you're going to have to get over it. It's called human race. I also have to go let my dog out and take care of my dog, so I'm going to temporarily put this down. And if the orientation locks, it just does. Sorry. Okay, P, let's go. Yeah, you're hearing a millennial take their dog out on life. Come on, baby. Come on. On, Miss Akita. There you go. There you go, precious. Out you go. I'll get you in a little bit. Good girl. Okay, my other millennial sister's turning over in her sleep. And don't worry about the dogs, folks. I'll be getting her in a little while, I assure you. I have many responsibilities as a millennial, but this is my job too, so I got a responsibility in my audience as well. I also have no idea where my Claritin is, so that'll be fun to find later. Oh... As you can see, I'm in my pajamas. Yes, we were the cursed generation that started the pajama trend. Ooh, no. I also think some of the 80s kids might have started it before us. I don't know. But I like talking to them because I feel they're closer in age to us, some of them, so they're interesting. The 80s kids are really interesting to me, folks. I want to be friends with all generations, but also I'm a little biased because I just have my preferences for what generations I want to be friends with that day. I'm so weird. If you like weird, crazy people, you have found the right channel. If you don't, exit is over there. There's 2 billion other YouTube channels to watch if I'm boring you. For the ones that are staying, you're intelligent folks and you're happy, and I hope that's true. Okay, anyway. I think if we all adopted more the understanding that not everything from every generation is bad and terrible, we'd be a lot better off. There is a right way to do technology in school, and there is a wrong way to do technology in school. And I can say that because I grew up in the wrong way to do technology in school, in my opinion. a lot of a lot of older parents will not know that not every millennial tech thing that ever came was just garbage. Some of it was. I'm going to agree with that. Some of it was, and some of it we need to get off of. But not all of it. First of all, I was in the library every single day as a kid to cover all the educational gaps my family and community of teachers couldn't provide. I did that research myself. Even that young, I had an instinct that I needed to learn myself. Which sounds really weird to say. There was these cool 90s little, like, white screen computers. I'm describing this so bad, I know. They had games like Jumpstart Second Grade, and they had, like, math and puzzle games, different sciences. There was all these games, but I particularly liked the Jumpstart Second Grade game. There's many versions of Jumpstart, and that was a very cool educational tool. I think we should bring some of those back in schools and see if we have a different result. It might surprise you. Also, I was on PBS Kids. They had an app and a website, and that was a lot of what I did after school or in school when I was done with my work and homework and that. I was also on coolmath.com. Yes, I played the heck out of a 3D maze game on there. And then I've heard of ABC Mouse, which is a newer version. There are many educational games and websites, folks. What we need to do is incorporate stuff like that into the schools. And I don't believe in an outright ban on YouTube. I don't believe in an outright ban on Facebook. I don't believe in an outright ban on any of the news or social medias. What I do believe is we need to have safer kid tools because my generation, yeah, I gotta call you on my generations, you guys are getting around those teachers' proxies and getting into all the bad stuff. Yeah, I'm calling you out because I was you and I know you. You are the reason they're a little stricter in schools now. A little bit. What we need to do is get way, way stronger proxies because these newer generations are so good at tech because we have completely spoiled their butts with it that they're even better than us at it. Sorry for spoiling you guys. Some of you are really actually good in the younger generations. I've actually watched many of the younger generations videos. Some are absolute garbage, but actually most of them are pretty cool. We need to end the generational hate. We need to end the societal hate, the church hate, whatever church group you're in, because there's many of them. I can't even cover all those. We need to end the political hate. You want to really help our children in schools? It's not just go ban cell phones in Ohio, which I'm not surprised by. That school district in Ohio messed me up for years. So, no offense, Columbus Public Schools, but I still have trauma from you. And that goes for the CPS system there as well. Franklin County, yeah, I gotta call them guys out a little bit. I'm sure some of them are okay now, but yeah. There were issues. I can't talk about everything because I gotta be respectful and I don't want YouTube demonetizing me. Because believe me, YouTube and Hasbro and companies like them are very into copyright and demonetization for no good reason, in my opinion. But they might have a different opinion from me on that. Like, I think Hasbro needs to learn that, yes, you own the show, yes, you own the toys, and yes, you own the episodes. What you don't own is the public's opinions on those things, so somebody needs to tell them that. I can't get to corporate, but somebody needs to tell them that. I'll talk about YouTube in a minute. I gotta go let the dog back in, because I have other responsibilities, including this one.
Okay, Mama. Come on, Precious. Let go.
get your meat in a little bit. I apologize for having to go off camera, but just because I'm a crazy nut on YouTube don't mean I ain't a person with responsibility too. Many of you are like, she's interesting. And others are like, I don't know. Well, anyway, you're here, so I can't be too bad. I can't be too bad. The dog's getting a drink. I gotta give her a lunch meat pack in a little bit, so I'll do that in a little bit. Yeah, we're working on fixing some of our pets' health issues. This is a common problem in many families. You care for your pet the best you can, but you can't always cover everything. I thought I finally had the version of how to take care of my cat right, and turns out I was still messing some things up after I did further research. Guys, if you're going to have a pet, you're going to have to do a ton of research, and you're going to have to relearn things and learn new things, no matter how old you are, no matter how long you've had that pet. Because we've had these dogs and these cats for years, and I'm still learning new stuff to this day. Yeah, I'm still... I move my hands a lot. My leg's even worse. Lucky you don't see that part. But I gesture a lot. I don't know if that's a generation thing or just a me thing, but I just do. The hair playing, you're going to have to get used to seeing that on my videos, because I will do that constantly for no good reason. I always have, and I always will. Yeah, and guys, you see how I'm looking at the camera? I can't call this direct eye contact because I'm not in front of another person, but believe me, Kid Self could never look at this camera directly. Ever. Not in her entire kid lifetime. Still working on that to this day, folks. Still working on that to this day. A lot of social anxiety from back in the day, but we're working on it. It is possible to overcome it, but don't push yourselves. Do it in the best way you can, but don't push it. I'm especially telling this to younger generations because eventually they're going to need to know these things. They might abandon some of our ways later on because every generation is newer, but they'll need to know a few of the past things. They will. That includes us millennials, folks. Just because your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents didn't exactly raise you to the best of their ability without you getting mad at them, doesn't mean you should abandon everything from them. Yeah, I gotta call my generation out a little bit. Yeah, many of the things I have wrong with me now is stuff I could have avoided had I listened to previous generations, so now I'm trying to work hard to fix some of those things. But I gotta talk about some of my educational background. First of all, until the age of 5, and the age of 3, and probably my sister's 11 months younger than me, would have been 2.5, we were all in Dallas, Texas, according to my parents. I don't remember this. You'd have to ask my older sister. She's the oldest. She remembers more because she was 5. I was 3 when we left, folks. The only thing I got a memory of is some meteor shower with a comet that I barely remember. That's it. So then we came to Columbus. Oh, Columbus. I am going to expose so many secrets, so I'm going to have many Columbus public school people shaking in their boots, and some of them older ones shaking in their older boots, believe me. A lot of this stuff has been covered up for decades, and some of it is just now coming to light. This is one of those. Let's cover my kindergarten through 5th grade experience. Now, obviously, I can't tell you every teacher I had in school, or we'll be here all day. Go research it yourself. There's many articles on who was teaching what back when. I'll tell you a few names, but that's it. Oh, man. Kindergarten. I had Miss Wilcox. I remember her name. I barely remember her name because I was 5 and still young, but I remember it enough. Not sure where she is now, but she is a pretty good teacher. I don't know how she put up with hyperactive kid me. I really don't. I probably scared her half to death because I was a kid that would actually jump on a cabinet and jump on a table because I see a circus act screaming I'm an acrobat. Yeah, I gotta take some personal responsibility here. But remember, folks, I would have been about 4, I would have been off 4 coming into 5, and believe me, those guys never sit still, no matter what generation they're in. Or some of them might have, I don't know, they might have been forced to, but, yeah, probably I'd hope they were little terrors. I actually can't wait to have a child when I'm stable enough to have one, folks. We're hoping between ages 39 to 45, somewhere in there. We'll see. It's more possible these days to do that, so we'll see then. I can only give you my advice from what I grew up, and that's it. First grade. There was some trauma in first grade. I don't exactly remember this teacher's name, but I had two first grade teachers. One we'll call jerk teacher for first half of the year, and then nice teacher for rest half of the year. I think you see where this is going. So, jerk teacher was the meanest, most condescending person I ever met, even at that age. I didn't know exactly what it was because I just called it mean back then because I was a little kid. I had no idea what the word condescending was. She would insult me all the time, sit me in the corner, send me to peek. Oh, you can't do math, go sit in the corner. You can't read, go sit in the corner. I think you get where some of this is going. Yeah. So then, after it got too bad, my parents actually did step in, specifically my dad. My mom had some issues. I'm not even going to go into my mom. She helped the education experience a little bit, but my dad was more helpful in that regard. So anyway, Dad stepped in and demanded I move to a different class. Moved to a different class? Guess what? My reading went up. Who knew? My math went up. Who knew? Second grade was actually a really great year because I had a wonderful teacher named Miss Jackson. She unfortunately died of cancer, folks. It was very sad. Even back then I was sad. I didn't know why, but I was sad. It's still sad to this day. She was a wonderful teacher who really cared about all her kids, and she made sure they had the best of reading and math and whatever she could give them. Yeah. I also had a lot of speech delay, and I had a speech tutor, and I hated it because I didn't know what's going on. Why do I need a speech tutor just because I can't pronounce the word stick and steak? I don't know why. I didn't know back then. I absolutely hated that poor lady for no good reason. But I was a kid. That's what kids do. Now I appreciate her because I would not be able to speak as well as I do without her. I have slowed down a little bit. I'm still working on slowing that down. It's a very bad habit. It's hard to break. It's like a personality trait for me, and it's also like a learned behavior for me, so it's hard to break the combo of those together. Yeah, if I am going too fast, captions, folks. Believe me, in my videos, until I get this more under control, you're going to have to caption everything. Otherwise, most of you are going to be completely lost. I'm even completely lost, and I'm the one talking, so then what does that tell you? You'll notice I like to laugh a lot. I am a very interesting, funny person. Now, a lot of these behaviors I learned from my dad, especially the sarcasm. Guys, my dad is sarcasm, but I am sarcasm times 3. Yeah. He's sarcasm, but I'm sarcasm times 3. I can also do like the evil laugh. You'll notice me do that slightly a little bit. I don't do it too much because I don't want to scare younger kids on here, but there's this evil TV laugh, and believe me, I'm very good at it. I don't know what's going on in the world today fully, but I do know some things I'm very unhappy with, especially the education and the whole political wars. And I'm not just talking here in the U.S. This is going on all over the world. There are many leaders who I, let's say, disagree with and the way they lead things. And then there's people like, oh, we can't change anything about those leaders. They've deluded themselves into believing they can't change anything about those leaders. Is there going to be casualties out of it? Yes. But if you really want to change things about those leaders, unfortunately, that's going to have to be a necessity. We're not going to cover that too much because I don't want to scare younger kids. We'll let them get older and figure that one out. Or you can explain it to them in a kid-friendly way because, believe me, many of them are probably traumatized just from what I said already. Like I said, I'm trying to become a family-oriented channel, so we definitely don't want to scare anybody in the younger generations at all. The unfortunate part of life is there's always going to be wars, rumors of wars, conflicts here and abroad. That's always going to happen. And it was happening long before this did. There were generations upon generations of it. If you go back into human history, we have a very violent history. I have to say that. But it was because people in those decades, the good ones, like all of us that are on here right now, wanted change. And the bad ones who don't want change, in my opinion, people like Trump, want to keep us people down. That's my personal opinion on that. And pay careful attention to what I say, because if you look there, there's hidden truths in what I'm saying. You gotta find them first, though. So, 3rd grade. Oh, what a year that was. And guys, I'm covering my entire education, some of it. I can't tell you all of it, but I'm covering some of it. So, 3rd grade. Ooh, what a year. It was a good year. It was a bad year. It was a mixed year. So I would have been about 9. This would have been about the release of the first Harry Potter books. Many of the younger crowd and the older crowd are tired of hearing us talk about that. You're gonna have to forgive me, I'm a millennial. I'm gonna have to talk about it, because that particular book series made the biggest impact on my life at that time. I know you're all bored of hearing about Harry Potter, but I'm gonna show you the Harry Potter I know in a way different light. Because many of you think it's one thing, many of you think it's another. I'll tell you what the real phenomenon behind that book was. Not what the news media says, not what the parents and grandparents say, and not what the younger generation say. I'll tell you the real impact that book had on me. And by the way, I do not agree with what J.K. Rowling said. I'm not going to get into that too much, but I don't agree with some of the things she said. But I also have to look into it, because I've now seen articles that maybe she said this, maybe she said that. So, investigate everything you see and hear. But if she did say something not cool, I'm not okay with it. That's my personal opinion on that. Okay. So, 3rd grade, they tried to mainstream me. Many of you do not know what that means. So, they tried to mainstream and they tried to special ed me, but that wouldn't happen until 4th or 5th grade, or the end of 3rd grade. Now, there's special education and there's mainstream, and sometimes there's combos between those two. Yeah, this is very hard to talk about because I'm trying to cover what I know, but I might be wrong how it actually works. Because remember, I would have been a child, folks, so I can only go off based off experience. So anyway, until the end of 3rd grade, yeah, that's exactly what I thought, I would have been a mainstream kid, obviously. The end of 3rd grade, when we would have been starting to get ready for 4th, is where the special education program comes in, your IEPs and all that. It's very hard to detect in younger children. That's why 3rd grade and onwards, I think more it's detectable then. And mind you, they didn't have all the knowledge about what all those problems were back then. The ADHD, the autism, all that. Most of that was still relatively new at the time, and there was very little research on it, and was mostly geared toward only boys. So, there were lots of gaps there back in the day. Some of you have no idea how lucky you are that some of this is even recognized nowadays. That's how bad it was. Some of it was not even recognized. Oh, and don't even get me started on the over-under medication of kids caused by parents. Yeah, I'll get into a whole tangent on that later. Let me just say this. You better investigate every medicine you're giving a child, because there are some long-term, life-lasting impacts, and I've seen the end result of them. I have. I have medicines from my own doctor, and I take them based upon need. I know the doctor probably wouldn't agree with me on that, but once you're 18, believe me, you need to start looking into your medications yourself, because you're an adult, and you're going to have to make that decision yourself, and you need to be careful what chemicals are altering your mind. The constant blinking. I had no idea that could be a trait of several things, but oh well. To me, that's just a personality thing. I'm sure it's not, but I don't really care to investigate that, because I am who I am, and that's who I'll always be. So anyway, 3rd grade, I would have been having trouble with math and reading, obviously. Actually, not so much science. That wouldn't come till a later decade, towards like middle and high. History was still okay too, because I wasn't learning the advanced stuff yet. Middle and high, the dates, yeah, we can see where that went. So anyway, 3rd grade, I would have had Miss Baumgartner, and there was another teacher too, but I don't remember her exact name. And guys, please don't go harass these teachers I'm mentioning, the ones that are still living. Don't go harass them, because many of them are probably way retired by now, or they've moved on to other things, so don't go harass them, please. I know how some of you think. You'll go like, oh, why'd you do this? Yeah, don't. Don't. Because I've already forgave them years ago, believe me. They were doing what they could at the time, I'm sure. I didn't agree with every one of them, but I'm sure they were doing what they could with what they had to work with. So anyway, the 2 teachers who taught me in 3rd grade were actually pretty good teachers. I didn't agree with some of the stuff they did with getting CPS involved in some things, but we'll leave it at that. I'm not going further into that one, because that will lead me down a rabbit hole that might even make me cry on camera, and I don't want to try on camera. I'll do that on occasion, but I don't like doing it. So, 4th grade, enter a teacher known as... 4th and 5th grade, enter a teacher known as Ms. Arnold. Now, 4th and 5th grade was a little weird because they started getting us more used to having different classes because they were trying to get us ready to transition to middle school. So this would have been, you had one main teacher, but you still would have had a couple different classes too to get you ready for that transition to the higher grades. Or at least that's how it was set up back then. I'm not sure how any of this is working now because, again, I am not in school now. I'm just telling you my experience back in the day. So if I'm wrong on anything nowadays, feel free to correct me. If I'm wrong on anything in the past generations, feel free to correct what I'm saying. So, enter a teacher known as Miss Arnold. That woman was the absolute vein of my assistance of Kid Me. Now let me tell you something, this lady should have never been in education. I will state that right now. I have forgiven her for what she did, but I will tell you, this should not have been a teacher. And please don't go look her up or harass her, because I'm sure she had her reasons. I don't know what personal reasons they were, but I'm sure there were reasons. Every human's different, and we all have reasons for everything, even if we impact others without realizing it. So anyway, Miss Arnold was a very abusive teacher, and I mean abusive in ways I've never seen any teacher abuse a student. When I was 9, didn't want to take one of the proficiency tests that would have helped you move to like... Well, actually, I would have been like closer to 10 at that point. So anyway, I didn't want to take one of those proficiency tests, and I can't remember if this was 4th or 5th. It might have been 5th, because she was in my life from like end of 3rd to 4th and 5th, so I'll just cover all those years and all of them. I think it was 5th. I didn't want to take this OGT test, so first of all, the previous week before this happened, she had actually bit me. There was adult bite marks on me. There is documented evidence of that. My dad was so mad. He worked for window cleaning folks, and he was friends with the lady with the window cleaning boss, and she was on the school board and had friends on the school board. So, yeah, an investigation was definitely launched after that one. So anyway, now this teacher is crazy enough to bite a 9-year-old kid. Yeah, and I mean full-on bite, too. I'm not playing. She bit my arm. I'm not even kidding. I know some of you might find this really shocking. Yeah, there were a lot of things in the 90s and 2000s that got covered up that need to be brought to light, and trust me, don't just take my word for it. Ask around, and you'll see just how true this actually was. But don't just take my word for it, because remember, people can lie on the internet, but trust me, I don't lie about things like this. Especially when they relate to my educational life, because I think it's important for newer generations to hear this stuff, so they have an idea of maybe where the problems were in the older ones. So anyway, I didn't want to take the OGT test, and believe me, folks, I was an odd kid. I was a very odd kid. I had very weird ideas in my head all the time. So I went out to the playground because, you know, kids, when they don't want to do something, will disrespect authority and just go wherever because it's a kid. Remember, this is Kid Me. I would never do something like that nowadays. I've had to work very hard not to do something like that nowadays because of some of the stuff that happened back in the day. So, first I go out to the playground, I'm on the slide, I got the test with me, and I'm just like looking through it and just scribbling in it because Kid Me was a jerk. Kid Me was an absolute jerk. A couple other names, but jerk is more family friendly, so Kid Me was a jerk. I can say that with pride. So anyway, her and another teacher come out there. I don't remember the other teacher's names, folks. It's been too long. It's been way too long. So they're like, go back into school or we'll give you a peek or detention. You know, all the usual stuff that teachers tell you to get you in trouble. We'll go to the principal. We'll call your parents. Okay. I know I have to interrupt my story, but I gotta go feed my dog some lunch meat because that's her cry of hunger. It's very important to recognize your cries in your pets. So I'll come back and continue this story. So stay if you want. Don't go anywhere. Except bathroom breaks. We ain't the TV folks. Go take that bathroom break. Go take your snack break, your bathroom break. This is the time to do that. And I'll come back and finish the story in a minute, okay? Mama P. Lunch meat, Mama P. Are you a good baby? There's a good girl. Oh, pretty baby. Good baby. Oh, are you pretty? The orientation locked. I'm gonna finish the story while also talking about my pet there. I'm not showing her on camera because she has many health problems and we're trying to fix them right now. Her name is Precious. She's an Akita. People are like, oh, why are you giving her processed lunch meat? Guys, something you need to know about these dogs, they're wolf-type dogs, and believe me, they have way different diets than most normal dogs would. Now, we don't give them processed meat all the time, obviously. That would be very bad for their health. We do it in a way that's healthy for them. And usually I do try to find other meats that are more natural, but it's expensive, folks, so you gotta do what you can. We all know how expensive the pet food market is. She wants out again? I'll be right back. You gotta care for those pets, folks. You gotta care for them. Okay, out you go. Let me know when you want back in, Mama. Good baby. It's locked again, isn't it? Is it locked again? Yeah, I hate the orientation lock thing. I figured out you could set it up and do that, but it's on a charger, and this charger's broken up, I assure you. We'll get into that later. Millennials are bad at charging, we're bad at keeping our stuff nice, and we're bad at storage space on our tablets, phones, or devices. I'm still working on my storage space, but that's gonna be garbage until I'm like 45, probably, and realize I don't need 1,500 apps for no good reason. Yeah, I'm spilling all the millennial secrets. Many of my generation are like really mad at me for this. So if you are in my generation, you're mad. Sorry, but somebody's gotta say it. You're too scared to. I'm not. Okay, so anyway, back to the story of my school experience with the lady known as Miss Arnold. And guys, please do not go harass this teacher just because I'm really angry at her. That's not okay to do. Don't go harass her. I don't even know if she's still living or not, folks, so don't go do that. So anyway, kid me would run off everywhere. And I mean absolutely everywhere. I'd be at the park, I'd be at the library, I'd be running away from my parents to go to the toy aisle. Yeah, I was that type of kid. I was just everywhere I shouldn't have been. And oh boy, would that come to haunt me in my teenage years, and we haven't even got to that yet. Believe me, there's a lot of nutty stuff in the teenage years. It's even worse. Some of it. But anyway, of course I go running off home because I'm like about 10 at that point, probably, maybe 11, somewhere in there. Probably 9 to 11, somewhere in that age range. So of course I go running off home because where do kids run to when they want comfort? Home. No matter how bad the home life is, they always run to home because that's where they feel the comfortable. Some of them might run to other places that are not home that they may feel more comfortable with. So naturally I go home. I lock my door, my back door, and it was a 2-story house, mind you, so there's these old porch steps, and that's a whole other story for a whole other time. So anyway, I lock my back door, I lock my door, I lock all the windows, and of course my parents have no idea what's going on. They have no idea. Believe me, I heard it, never heard the end of it later, but they had no idea at the time. So this lady and her school friend were crazy enough to actually bust out a window and break down my back door. Yes, they committed a crime, folks. An actual crime. And they weren't even prosecuted for it. Believe me, a lot of this is going to be very shocking to very many educators and very many older folks. Yes, they did commit a crime. They broke an entry. They absolutely did. Yeah. Many people are like, what the heck? Yeah, believe me, folks, the 90s and 2000s was a little more crazier than any of you might have guessed. Why do you think millennials are so bad at parenting? It's because of stuff like this. And it's not just to do with the parents that raised us. It's to do with a lot of educators that raised us too. Sorry, 90s and 2000s educators, I gotta call some of you out. Some of you I'm gonna give decent shout outs because some of you were excellent teachers and I'd be the person I am today without you. So, it was 50-50, folks. There were good and there were bad. That's just how it was. Anyway, of course, kid me got scared as crap because this lady had already bit me the prior week, and if they're crazy enough to break into my house, what else are they crazy enough to do? So naturally, kid me is thinking she's smarter than they are, so of course I go running out the front door when I hear them break into the back door, obviously. And I go to places I'm familiar with. I would have been running towards the downtown library at the time. Why? Because that library had food, drinks, cookies, and stuff, and I thought you could live in a library. Guys, I was like really young. Believe me, I did not know that you couldn't live in a library when I was that young. My dad later explained that to me, and he wasn't happy with the choices I made, but he also understood them. So anyway, I'm trying to go to the library, but then I figure, that's probably a dumb idea anyway. So then I go to my dad's work area, obviously. But usually those guys are out on call at that time, so since I didn't see anyone around, I walked back towards the library again. The downtown one going towards the upper library, which would have been the Hilltop Branch Library, which is the one I was in daily as a kid. The downtown one we visited on occasion with my dad when we were down there. And then I'll get into a whole thing about the bottoms later. Hilltop and bottoms. Some of you will know what I mean, some of you won't. Believe me, there's an interesting story there. There's also like a whole thing with Crips and Bloods. I'm sure some of you now know what I mean, so. If you don't know some of this stuff, you might want to Google and research into it, ask people around the area if you're in that area. Do your research, do your homework. Don't just take everything I say, because believe me, there's some that I'm not even covering. I'm sure there's many more horror stories than just what I can give you. I'm just telling you my own personal one. So anyway, about that time, these lovely police officers, they had the old paddy wagon, and of course, yeah, I think we can see where that went. You obviously wouldn't want a 9-year-old walking on their own, claiming they're going to live in the downtown library. I gotta say thank you to those officers. I probably didn't like them too much back in the day, but I gotta say thank you because they did a good job. I probably didn't like them as a kid because, I'm in trouble. But, we get the idea. So anyway, they of course returned me to my parents, who were not happy about any of this situation. My mom was especially angry because, believe me, she had very many educational gaps, and she had her own problems, folks. My dad had to calm her down. We'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna get into my mom because that's a whole tangent of a story, and that's her story to tell, not mine. I can only give you clippets of that, and believe me, she tried her best, folks, but she had many issues. That led to me having many issues, too. So, I'm glossing over a lot of this, trust me. I'm telling you some of the horrifying parts, but I'm glossing over a lot of this because, some of it I'm still not comfortable talking about till this day. Guys, this is like 59 minutes. I love to watch the time because I never know how long I'm talking. I love watching the time. I'm very weird about that. Okay. There's also occasionally this square that will pop up, and I'm sure it has to do with face and like frame rate, and I just trace it for no good reason. Some of you who've been here before have seen me do that. You'll see me do that again. It hasn't popped up so far, so we're not gonna bother. We only do it when it pops up. I don't understand some of the newer technology myself, even after being 30 years old and millennial. A lot of people in the older generation seem to get that confused. Oh, they must understand everything about tech. Yeah, no. I'm not in IT, folks. I'm not in IT. That's their job. Hire the IT person. Don't hire me. Some of our parents and grandparents need to hear that. They really do. And then some in Gen C is like, why are these guys getting the tech? And Gen Alpha, yeah, they're like that too. Not counting Gen Tablet, because those folks are two. They have no idea what's even going on. Those are babies. Those are legit babies. Some people forgot how babies work, apparently, but those are babies, last I checked. And I don't think it's really fair to call them Gen Tablet, because first of all, they're not even old enough to form their first sentence, most of them. We don't know what their generation wants to be called. I'm pretty sure they're probably not going to be one called Gen Tablet. I doubt the two generations, Gen C and Gen Alpha, just wanted those labels suddenly. We just gave them one, I guess. Us millennials got given one too, because believe me, when I first heard the phrase millennials at 17 and 18, I thought it was for Olympic gold medalist, meaning medallion. Yeah, a lot of people would be shocked to know that. If you didn't know that, many millennials at 17 and 18 had no idea what they even were. Nope, no idea. Okay, so anyway, I'm of course returned to my parents. They're all upset, and my dad, of course, went to the school board. Him going to the school board is going to be a recurring theme throughout this educational process, because, like I said, he was a window cleaner. His boss was either on the school board or friends with somebody on the school board, so you're going to hear the school board come up a lot in this conversation, especially in my older years. So anyway... So, most older generations think we were on tech every second of the single day. No, no, no. That was an earned privilege in most households. That was an absolute earned privilege in most households, and an earned privilege at school. That's how it should be, in fact. Not all the way as draconian as we had it, and I say draconian because some of it was, but that was an earned privilege. You didn't just automatically get on your cell phone after school without having your parents say, hey, this is how much screen time you get, and go to bed. Believe me. A lot of older generation people don't know that. Now they do. So anyway, I was in the library daily as a kid. Every gap in education, and then on TV, every documentary or show I just had an interest in, I filled in some of those educational gaps myself, folks. At that young, I didn't realize I was filling in the educational gaps myself. I did to an extent, but not to the full extent of what I now know. So anyway, I finally got away from her, Miss Arnold, in 5th grade. I was so relieved to go to middle school. As awkward as that was. I was unrelieved when I got there, and slightly also relieved when I got there. It was a very awkward time. Middle school, I don't care what age you are, that is the most awkward switch experience you will ever have in this lifetime. It's even worse than transitioning to high school. Middle school is the worst one, folks. Because this is the point where they're trying to get you ready for the high school education, where you'll have like 8 classes. It's usually 8 classes. I don't know if some people have changed that since then. I'm just going based off what it was in the 90s and 2000s, folks. So, we're just going based on that. So, 6th grade, I obviously was a bit lost compared to some of my peers who had other middle schools they went to, and might have been a little... My other elementary schools they went to, and might have got a little better than I did, so... Of course, I messed around in 6th grade and nearly flunked, yeah, for the first part of the year, until we figured out what... Until some people who were educational experts figured out what teachers would actually work better for me. And believe me, I insulted one of them who was actually better for me. Her name was Miss Fairfaust, and I gotta apologize to her if I ever see her, because I said some very nasty things that I probably had some influences to say those nasty things back at the time. I'm gonna leave it at that, but she was a good teacher, folks. She is a good teacher. Helped me and my sister and many other students a lot. Hey guys, again, please do not harass anybody I mentioned in this video, because most of them are retired or moved on with their lives. Don't go do that. I don't want that. I have to keep repeating that because I know some humans are absolute crazies and will go do something like I just mentioned. So, if you're tired of hearing it, I'm repeating it for a reason. And not just because I repeat everything, which I do. I'll stop repeating it now, but seriously, don't harass any teacher I mentioned in this video, because I don't know what they're doing now, I don't know what they were doing then, but they're a different person now, I'm sure. Most of them. I don't know about some of them. So anyway, like 6th through 8th grade, briefly in like 8th grade, 7th grade for my younger sister, and my older sister was in a late. I would have been no, my younger sister would have been 6th, I would have been 7th, my oldest sister would have been 8th. There was a thing where she got held back 1st grade year because they lost her records. That's a whole other story. I'll let her tell that story. That's her story. We were close in school, but yeah, there was gap years where some of us were in different schools, so that's where the disconnect is. So anyway, about 7th to 8th grade for me, or like 8th grade for my older sister, and like 6th grade to 7th grade for my younger sister. So we had another stint with the foster care people. I'm not even gonna go into that one because it was one of the worser ones. And believe me, we got transferred to a Pickerton, Ohio school, and it was a whole different system. And that was our last experience in foster care, thankfully, for a while. And it was just a whole different system, and I had to relearn a lot of stuff, and I was all confused. And then they try to use, oh, your grades got better when you went here as an excuse. My grades got better because I studied harder, not because the school system was better, folks. Which is what they try to use in court, which was quickly disproven, thankfully. My dad, being a window cleaner, had enough money to hire a very good family attorney. His name was Ryan. I don't remember his last name, I just know his name was Ryan. He was such a good lawyer that the other folks, the CPS folks, screamed, they got Ryan. Yeah, I think you could see the level of fear with that attorney. I don't know his last name, folks. I can't remember. I'd have to ask my dad. I just know his first name was Ryan. He was a cool dude. I met him personally when I was a kid, and I thought he was cool. I didn't understand how impactful he'd be, but I was glad he got us out of the foster care system. And guys, I'm not insulting the foster care system. I'm talking about a foster care system that was back at that time. Some of these things still happen to this day, but they're getting a little rarer and people are getting more light shed on them, so remember, if I'm talking badly, it's because back in the day, it was just that bad. It was just that bad, folks. And I gotta remember to breathe. I'm very bad at it. I will get a drink after this live is over, I can assure you. Anyway. Now, high school. This is what I describe as the golden years of my education. There were a few personal things back then, but the high school years, is actually what I describe as my golden arc years of education. The teachers in my high school at Briggs were so caring. They even cared about students that should have been given up on long ago. That's how good of teachers they were. And I don't just mean teachers. There were principals, there were counselors, some of them I disagreed with, but anyway. There was like school resource officers. So it was a little better experience in high school because at that point you're getting older and you're more independent and can start learning things on your own more. I'm going to say I had the best time in high school because still I had some educational gaps from elementary and middle school that needed filled that I had to work really hard with those teachers and educators and myself to fill. So anyway, freshman year, oh, that was fun. I got lost so much. Remember, folks, great long-term memory, horrible short-term. I had to use maps until 11th grade. Maps of the school until 11th grade. Yeah, I think we see where that went. That would have been my junior year for those of you confused what I mean by 11th grade. So anyway, yeah, I was that kid that needed the map until, like, junior year. Yeah, I was that kid that needed a map, despite knowing where everything in the school was by sophomore year. Yeah, that's fun. Oh, man. If you're a freshman, don't worry about getting lost, because you're just going to get lost. That's just a freshman fact. I don't care what generation you are. Maybe the older ones wouldn't because they would have had more smaller schools, but newer generations, if you get lost at your first grade and ninth grade, don't even worry about it because everybody does. Literally everybody does. That's why sometimes they'll assign the seniors to help the younger ones. Seniors and juniors, they usually assign them to, hey, this class is here and that class is there. Or at least that's how it worked back in the day. I hope that's still how it works today, because believe me, those older students helping the younger students was a very good thing. Some of the older students got pretty annoyed by it because they're like, we already did this. Well, they might have got annoyed, but they still helped out anyway, so they don't realize it, but they were actually really helpful, even if they were very annoyed at the time. Hopefully we're all a little less annoyed now. I don't know. Teenagers are just teenagers. They just be teenagers sometimes. I can say that because I was one. And believe me, I'm not the picture of saintliness you see on YouTube. I'm sure there's many stories from many people back in the day that can tell you some of my more nefarious acts as a kid. If you want to know more about that, you can email me. Yeah. I should give this out for the newer viewers who are new watching me. So, the old viewers are probably sick of hearing me say this, but I gotta always say it because there's new viewers and I don't know who's new and who's not. So anyway, I'm Maria Morposa on Facebook, mariamorposa@gmail.com, and if you really want to harass me, I'm Banana Pudding on Villagers and Heroes, which is the MMO game. And they have that on Apple and Google. They have it on Steam, they have it on PC, they have it on desktop, laptop. It's everywhere, folks. It's everywhere. But I will say, there are different rules with the Steam, and Apple's a bit more strict, folks, about what's on VH. So, there you go. You might want to go with the Android version if you go mobile. That's just my personal recommendation. However you want to play is fine, but personally I play the Android version on this tablet, and it works fine for me. Oh, and there's a lot of different servers, so you gotta investigate which servers has what languages, because there's like a bunch of US ones, there's Europe and Germany, and like there used to be an Asia one, but now they're more mixed in with a different one. So, ask somebody on there when you get there, and they'll tell you which server might be right for your language and cultural background. But, if you're confused at first, don't worry, because there will be people on there to help you. They might not find them at first, because they're not always on at the same time, because these are many different humans, and they're all living different lives, but keep trying, day after day, until you find someone that speaks your language or culture, and they'll tell you, direct you to which server you should go to, until you're more used to the more English version, I should say. Yeah, I have to give out that little tip because a lot of people, I would see them in VH get confused, and I direct them to different servers myself, so. I've been on every one, believe me. Millennials are very bad at this. You're supposed to, like, be a little better at not having so many, but, believe me, every millennial has, like, 500 tunes. Or at least the ones I know do. Can't speak for every millennial, but the ones I know have like 500 tunes on every server. So most of mine are garden notes, except for like Banana Pudding, and I'm working on my pirate after. He's like warrior or something. Long names, folk. Long names. It's a pirate. I gave it a long name on purpose. We'll just leave it at warrior for now. He's a no. But Banana Pudding is my main tune. Back in the day, I would have been known as Tanka instead. Many of the Nightwatch folks and the other folks in BH will be very surprised to know that I've been secretly hiding there for many years. Whoops. Uh-oh. I spilled my own secret. I love doing that. Yeah. I talk really long-winded, folks. I was the bane of many teachers' existence with my run-on sentences, and that even translated into my writing, folks. Oh, and Kid Me's writing. Let's not even go there. I still catch myself doing it on occasion when I'm in a rush, but now I have pretty neat handwriting, actually. Something I had to work hard for. I was very disappointed to hear they're taking cursive out of some of the schools. I don't know how many they're actually taking it out of, but guys, cursive is so important. Maybe we only need 1 year in 3rd grade to learn it, or maybe just half a dedication, like 1 semester, but that cursive is more important than you guys realize. Now, many people just seem to think millennials just use tech for everything. I have you know, I'm planning on writing my aunt a letter not too long from now for Christmas. You're going to need cursive more than you think, folks. You're going to need that to sign medical documents. You're going to need that for doctor's care. You're going to need that for insurance. And I'm not just talking signatures, because some of you will need to learn how to use the old-fashioned U.S. postal system more than you think you will. I don't care you got all this updated new tech. Yeah, that exists. We know. If you want to use that, fine. But sometimes you're going to have to go with those traditional methods, and you better know how to address a letter And you better know how to do this and this and that with a package, or you're going to be so lost and confused. And then the poor postal workers will have to do that job, and they already get underpaid enough, believe me. You think they really have time to sit there and help every single customer that comes in and gets mad because they didn't have this, and that, and didn't know they needed it? No, they do not. So yeah, cursive should not be going out of schools. I don't know what schools or if it's going out of schools, but if it is, I am very scared about that. That goes for context clues too. I'm not going to claim the kids are bad at reading if you're taking away one of the fundamental things I learned to help me learn to read back in the day. And you're wondering why they're bad at it? And that's another thing. How are you going to just decide automatically that kid is a bad reader? This is the same exact garbage that happened to me as a kid. Many teachers in my younger education, like early elementary school, decided that I was such a bad student that I couldn't learn anything that they just set me in a corner, and then I had to go into the library every day and fill those gaps myself. You guys are doing the very same exact thing. I'll be right back. The dog wants back in now. I have to work on her schedule sometimes. Come on, Mama P. There you go. There you go, baby. Good girl. I'll lay down. Because I'm trying to be a community educator doesn't mean I get out of my dog responsibilities. My sister has her own responsibilities she's good at, but I'm better at caring for the dogs because it's something I've done since I was like this small. So she has her own issues. I'll leave her to explain those. But I will tell you that sometimes I feel more like her babysitter than I do her sister. We'll leave it at that. And she's 3 years older than me, mind you. So we're working on that. Okay, so anyway, if you take context clues out, and you just decide that student suddenly can't read because you think they can't do anything, which, believe me, many of you have done this and are still doing it to this day, do you really think they're going to grow up wanting to read or go to school? Do you think they're going to grow up wanting to do these things? Or are they going to do what I did as a kid and follow their passions outside school, and then all of a sudden you hear them 30 years down the line, they're in this, and that film, and you're like, wait, the kid that couldn't read is doing this? Many of us are still making that very same mistake to this very day. Don't just presume that child can't read. I assure you, that child has the cognitive ability, no matter what the spectrum they're on, to learn to read. Just you guys are framing it in a way that they don't want to do it. And it's a way that's been framed since the early 90s, and probably even before that with the 80s children. I'm not sure about the 70s and backwards because that's a little older. That's my mom's generation. She's told me some of the things, but I don't know everything. You'll have to ask her about that because she was more in it than I was. I mostly know the 80s kids' stories because I feel a closer connection with them, and I actually researched some of their stories, and I found very many similarities, is why I know so much on theirs. You gotta research every generation to see where the gaps came and where they can be prevented and fixed. You should not get rid of everything from every generation. We need a mixture of all things from every generation. And I've seen some schools start to do this. It's going to be a very hard process, folks, and it's going to take many decades to undo all this damage, believe me. And I want to talk about integration a little bit. We want to integrate the non-neuros and the neuros together. Well, let me tell you the end result of that one. Bullying, harassment, and not understanding each other on both sides. I know. I lived it. I'm not going to say integration is not possible, but it's going to take many decades and areas of research before such things are possible. Like, I was watching documentaries on some of the PBS shows, like Arthur's and Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers and the newer version, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. These are all things I grew up watching. Yes, I was a PBS kid, definitely. I was many other network kids, but I was definitely a PBS kid. So, those programs and research, everything on television, a lot of those were backed by clinical psychologists, people in children's psychology, people who worked and did that job for a living and gave recommendations to the channels for what they were broadcasting. A lot of people don't seem to realize just how much research went into those particular shows. They didn't just pop on the screen one day, they did their research. That's why I laugh the Arthur one so much, because it is so accurate to 90s and 2000 kids without overly stating the point. They did it in a very non-offensive way so children wouldn't get offended, and neither would the parents. But if you go back and watch the show Arthur, a lot of the 90s and 2000s kids, how it actually was, is there. You gotta go back and watch it, but it's there. The fact that that message is there at all is because people in the backgrounds to do education in psychology worked very hard on those shows to get them out there to help a whole generation of kids without either their parents or their kids even realizing just what they were up to. We need more programs like that, and it's going to have to start with every program that's educational or non-educational now. We need to integrate everything in the schools from all the generations. There's shows like Paw Patrol, or like newer SpongeBob and older SpongeBob. We need all those cultures and classes to kind of mix together. We need them to mix together if we want to do the kind of thing we're talking about. We also need to get better at our politics. Many of us are just following everything we're told and fed. If you follow everything you are told and you follow everything you are fed, nothing is going to change at all. You'll have no change. See, I thought I wanted to be the president myself, but I can see now that's not a realistic career goal for me. Maybe, like, way in decades in the future it would be. But right now what I can do is be a community educator. That's what I'm calling myself. That's the label I'm taking. That's what I mean. Anyway, high school was way better. There were many good teachers and principals and all them. I'll give you their names if you want, but it was a lot better because they helped me explore my interest and figure out what I was good at. Some of them even showed me how to fill out job applications. Some of them told us what taxes were. They were cutting a lot of programs back then, but I went back to the high school website the other day looking for when the reunion was. I still don't know. I'll have to find someone from Briggs. So if you're from Briggs, hey, I'm looking for you. So anyway, I went back to the high school page the other day and looked at their new staff video. And it's a whole new staff, but what I saw was positive changes. A lot of positive changes. Many of the programs they cut, they refunded and redid. Many of the programs I grew up with there are even better than they were. Many of the educational gaps I had there were being filled, and I was so happy to see a whole new generation of kids get a whole new experience. Even one of the kids became a student leader and founded a new team that had not been there before. And some of the older teams that had gotten rid of, like bowling and golf when I was there, I was happy to hear made a full return. I also was a bit braggy because I saw that some of our school years still had some records, so I had to brag about that a little. In my head, of course. And to you guys. So anyway, I can't count some of it, though, because I'm sure the pandemic influenced a lot of it. That influenced everybody. We need to talk about that. It did impact a lot of us. Still this day, I question when I walk in a store, should I actually put that mask on or not? I probably should with all the health problems I have. But at the same time, I see other people like my dad not wearing. I'm like, I'll be fine. And then at the same time, I gotta remember, my aunt, who's older and having memory issues, did give me that pneumonia. See, it's very complicated the way things work in societies. Everyone is like a weird copycat of each other. And that's any generation. We're all weird copycats of each other, and we don't even realize how much of a copycat we are. I am probably copycatting some of the things way back in the day that I don't even know I'm copycatting. And some of you younger generations are very guilty of this. It's really weird to me with Gen Z because from what I've seen, some of Gen Z wants to abandon the 90s completely and others want to completely copy the 90s. Let me tell you, you shouldn't completely copy us and you shouldn't completely abandon us either. Draw your own conclusions is what I'm saying. So anyway, that's about the best I can do on my educational stories, and if you want more info on the CPS stories, which believe me, some of those are really horrifying, and I'm not going to say that on here because I'm trying to be a family channel. You want more info, you gotta go to my email or my Facebook, or come find me on VH, because believe me, that needs to be a personal chat, because it was that bad. It was that bad, folks. I know some things in CPS and the mental health system are getting fixed this day, but some of them could still stand to be a little better. One thing we need to learn, and this is my opinion, I'm sure some might have a different opinion. I don't think there is a mental health crisis, and I do think there is a mental health crisis. There's two versions of this. Here's my experience. First of all, a couple years ago, I had environmental factors from something going on that affected my brain, so obviously that wasn't fun. So obviously, I had my dad take me to the hospital and it went south. Instead of getting medical treatment like should have happened, I got psychological treatment like should have happened. But that was actually good in a way because it got me to getting the medical treatment I needed, because those folks could clearly tell, even back then, that as crazy as I was acting, there was something not right there. I might have probably argued with them because I wasn't in my mind space at the time. But I appreciate them for what they did do. So anyway, that led to me going to different doctors, getting to a very good hospital that's helped me with my treatment. I've got one in Champaign, one in Gibson. Well, actually several in Gibson, a few in Champaign, one in Danville. See, I have a whole medical team now that I can go to because all that happened, as bad as that sounds. Also, there's an actual mental health crisis where younger people actually have legit problems and need to be put in these places to help them out, whether they think it's helping them or not, because many of them would have tragic outcomes if not for that. So we do need to talk about that. There's also a thing where older adults with cognitive disabilities, they kind of get the flip-floppy treatment of, oh, we know you can be independent, but we don't want you to be. Yeah, but instead they should be helping them find care, but it's so overwhelmed right now, they can't find the care for those people so they could be independent. And then they end up in places like that. They're just kind of stuck there. And their parents and grandparents, they're like, oh, what do we do? And this is true of every generation. The parents and grandparents and family members are like, oh, what do we do now? Do we give them up? Do we do this? Do we do that? They're all confused. I'm even confused by some of the stuff I've seen. And mind you, folks, I'm just going based off what I've seen. And it's not just here in the U.S. either. This is globally, folks. I've seen it in Australia. I've seen it in Argentina. I've seen it everywhere. It's everywhere all over the globe right now, even especially in the UK. So we're not exempt. I think we're probably worse here, actually. But I've seen that they have the problems too. But I think the way the U.S. works currently, we are not exempt from that at all. We're probably one of the worst. I don't know that for sure because I haven't been to other countries. I can only see them from what I research, so let me know if I'm wrong and there's somewhere worse than U.S., because I'm sure there is. I'm just going based off my personal opinion. Then we also have this disconnect between what I like to call neurotypical people like my dad and non-neurotypical people like me, my mom, and sister. See, the reason we have such a hard time communicating is not just society. It's our own mental minds ourselves. Neurotypicals were probably raised in a way to believe that any non-neurotypical was absolutely batshit crazy. I'm sorry, I gotta state the truth. They were probably raised in a way that they believed non-neurotypicals were batshit crazy. Yeah. These are some harsh truths I'm having to reveal, and I'm sorry for the cussing, but some of this I'm still working on. I still gotta cuss about a little bit of it, because it's absolutely ridiculous. Then us non-neurotypical people are guilty of the same thing. We want acceptance and inclusion, but we're not remembering, hey, those folks are raised a certain way and don't know what we are yet, and we should explain it to them. We don't do that. 1 second, Crystal. The other millennial woke up. It's 11:51. She don't want to be shown on cameras, folks, so I respect her wishes. She's my sister. She's not the camera one. She's the slime videos. She's the shorts. She's the cat videos. She's the one behind all them, because this is a sibling one YouTube channel. Not a full sibling one, though. My little sister, she's still in Ohio, so she works at O'Reilly. She's had many different jobs, but so far O'Reilly seems to be her golden ticket right now, so. I also have a niece and a nephew that I'm excited to hopefully see this Christmas. We'll see how that goes. And an aunt, too. She's an interesting aunt. She's what some people might describe as a Karen aunt, which is ironic because her name is Carolyn. She's actually a wonderfully sweet lady. She's just kind of stuck in her ways, and guys, she's having a little bit of memory issue, so that's not her fault. I actually love my aunt very much. I will be very cautious around her so I don't get sick again, but I love her very much. By the way, asthma and pneumonia, fun times. If you have asthma, please wear a mask as much as you can. Because believe me, you don't want pneumonia. Been there, done that, you don't want it. That's addressing the younger crowd. Some of you need to hear that. Some of the older crowds that don't want to wear that mask, you need to hear that too. Guys, this is an hour, 29 minutes, and 59 seconds long. It just changed, but that was my last thing I said. So, yeah, I'm surprised I could talk this long. I shouldn't be because I do this all the time, but I usually try and make shorter videos for YouTube because they take forever to upload afterwards, but this time I'm making an exception because some of this is really important to hear. It really is. So anyway, there were definitely family things going on. There were community things going on. There were society things going on. Guys, seriously, I only voted for Obama in my first election because I was influenced to do so. In my second election, I voted for Biden because I had a little more understanding, and I'm voting for him again this time. Please vote for who you think you will do the best job. Don't just vote based on what you think you've heard or think you know, because that's not how you should be doing that. And non-neurotypicals and neurotypicals, let's have a little more communication. I know we are all raised one certain way, but let's have a little more communication between those two groups, and then maybe we can fix some more of these problems and integrate the schools more. Because until we fix ourselves, there's no way in heck we're going to be able to integrate children into the same school if we don't even understand ourselves. I'm having to reveal some very harsh truths, I know, but I'm sure a lot of my generation is probably like, why? Well, I'll tell you, my generation, just because you're too scared to speak about it doesn't mean some of us in this generation are. It needs said. Anyway, I'm tired of talking about my background, so I want to hear everyone else's backgrounds. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your answers. I want to hear from everybody else. And don't just sit there and not say anything, because I can see some of you are there. I can see those numbers, folks. So, questions or comments, that's this section. That's now. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to see what pops up. After I adjust like 50 more times because I'm having problems that I shouldn't be having till I'm 90, but that's a different matter. Guys, I don't want to just stare at the screen. Please ask the questions. Seriously, you guys will make me nervous if you don't ask something. I know, I've talked for an hour. You want to hear me talk more? Well, I gotta have some questions asked first if you want to hear me talk more. If not, I'm gonna have to end this live and I'm gonna have to see you later. So, if you don't want me to go, you better ask some questions. But if you want me to go, bye. I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes, because I know you're like too nervous to ask that question. So was I when I was a kid. Ask the question anyway. I don't care if it's a bit offensive. I'll answer it to the best of my ability. And guys, I'm not gonna get offended if you ask me offensive questions, because believe me, the amount of stuff I have seen in my entire lifetime is enough to cover that. I discovered pages I really shouldn't have when I was real young, and I think that's what today's parents are scared of. Yeah. That does have an impact, believe me, folks. Today's parents are very scared that their young children will discover those pages, and I don't blame them, they should be. But I think we can do a little more monitoring to help them not discover it so early like I did. And by the way, folks, my first Facebook would have been at like 12. And the limit for them was 13, and my older sister and her friend showed me how to get a Facebook, so I think that's what they're worried about. And guys, Facebook can be okay, but it can also be very toxic, too. I don't think young children should be on that without their parents. I know some of you are thinking I'm draconian than younger generations, but trust me, I've seen the dangers Facebook is. I was there for the OG version of MySpace. Yeah, it's more dangerous than you realize. There's creeps on there, there's perverts, there's people who want to exploit and get kids to go to other countries. I had an old hork at 17 where I thought I was going to marry an Arabian prince and I wore a hoodie and everything. Yeah, just teenagers are dumb. Teenagers are really dumb. I don't care what generation you're from, teenagers, whatever generation it's from, is always dumb. Not on purpose. They're very smart people, but some of their decision-making can be a bit questionable. And that's not their fault entirely. Some of the parents are a bit behind that, too. So, Every generation's got to take responsibility for the next one. Oh, and I'll tell you, one of the things that irritates me the most is people referring to Gen Tablet and videos like this one. How dare they let that baby cry in the restaurant or the store? How dare they just give it an iPad to shut it up? First of all, I have some notes on that too, because I've lived this. I, obviously, being non-neurotypical, have very sensitive ears. And for a long time, I didn't understand why crying children were the vein of my existence when I actually love kids. I love them to death. What it is some of us can't stand crying children, but you know what I found the best thing to do is? Instead of harassing the parents who are actually trying to do something, and believe me, there's jerks that try not to do something. There's two different sets of parents. There's the jerks giving them the tablet that try not to do anything. Then there's the ones giving the tablet that are trying their hardest they can. You shouldn't harass those parents, folks. What you should do is pop in that earbud, that headphone, whatever CD player, phone, go to a different aisle, go to a different section of the store, the restaurant. Try and tune it out. I know it's hard, but I'm pretty sure half of technology is in people's pockets these days. If it's not good for you, I don't know how you can live, but you've made it somehow. Anyway, those are baby children. They are humans. They cry until they're like 6 to 12, so... And even then, they still cry, just less. We are all humans, folks. Many of us seem to have forgotten how human race works. You're a baby, infant, toddler, you go through all the stages. You will cry no matter what age you are, and it can be annoying. But you shouldn't take that on everyone else. You need to just go to a different aisle, go to a different section, plug in the earphones, and just try and move on with your day. Otherwise, you're going to be a very miserable person who thinks society is falling apart and crumbling, which seems to be what's happening here, in my opinion. When I was younger, and I had no idea what kind of impact I was even making then, in my church program, we had a Say Yes program that was for tutoring younger kids. Some of you will probably recognize me. Hello, you're older now. I have no idea how old you are, but hi. I remember some of you. You guys are cool. Yeah, anyway, we had what we called Say Yes kids, which were the church kids, and they came from different schools and backgrounds around the area, and we did tutoring with them. I was very good at helping students with English because it was one of my core favorite subjects, always. Wasn't so good at helping them with math, even though I worked hard to help them with what math I could. Thankfully, there were other tutors to fill in that gap. So anyway, and even before then, I would do a lot of volunteer work in my schools as a kid. Not so much the elementary, because we were still figuring out things then. But when I got to middle school, there was these two lovely old janitors, and I don't remember their names, and I should because they were so nice. They even gave me this one of them gave me this like expensive watch collection they give like everybody. It was this whole like swim trip thing. I'm gonna have to stop or I'll go on a whole tangent about it. So anyway, I would help wipe up the tables, I would clean the lunchroom, I would help take the trash out, and I loved doing that as a kid. Yes, many people are very weirded out that I loved doing that as a kid. I loved doing that community work as a kid. And hang on, the parents are back and the back door is locked. I'll be right back. Hey, Crystal, I know you're off camera, but maybe you can entertain the audience for a minute.
I'm coming. No, I'm very busy trying to get this stupid piece. No, I said I was busy.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. It's okay. Don't worry. They'll be back in soon. They'll pick up the rest of the groceries. Okay. For someone who runs half this channel, you're sure not very involved sometimes. Guys, for someone who runs half this channel, sometimes she's not very involved. Anyway, the parents were back, the back door was locked, I had to go put the milk up and give them the keys to get in the cats in storage room so they could put up the other groceries. We keep a, freezer and another deep freezer, so it's this whole weird setup. Believe me, when you run in a multi-gen household, everyone splits that responsibility evenly, trust me. My dad's also probably going to get mad because my work is not done, and I will be doing that off camera after this live, I can assure you. He'll be mad that I didn't do it right away, but I have learned this, I have my own methods, and I have to do what works for me, no matter how mad the previous generations get at me. And sometimes I even piss off the other millennial generation, because believe me, I do stuff that annoys her too. We all in different generations seem to annoy the heck out of each other without realizing it, and many of us are not even doing that on purpose at all. I probably don't even remember what I was talking about 2 minutes ago, so if you want to give me a reminder, that'd be great. I know I was talking about I was talking about some community work I was doing. So, high school was a little bit different. So once I got out of middle school, obviously I went on to high school, clearly. I'm a high school graduate, Briggs High School, 2012. That's as far as I went with my education for now, and we're working on that this or next year. We're also fixing some medical issues and doing a whole thing with Social Security first, so there's many gaps in my development I have to cover still to this day, even as an adult. So, next time you younger generations are getting mad at your parents, some of them are working more hard than you think they are. A lot more hard than you probably think they are. And I'm sure they're accidentally being unfair to you. Well, unfortunately, that is life, folks. It happens. I know. I was in it. So, anyway. High school, I was kind of mad because you couldn't do the, cleaning up like I did in middle school because they had some weird rule against it. My dad's coming in the background. So anyway, they had some weird rule against it, but I still helped out when I could. Like, when other students would throw trash, some of our friend group would be the ones to pick it up and throw it away where it belonged, or we'd occasionally wipe off tables. 1 second,
Right,
folks.
it's 12, around 12 o'clock answer.
Okay, will do.
Well, the reason is, I don't know if they call about that heart thing, machine in here,
Oh yeah, you were supposed to have that thing for the machine. Well, if anything calls, I'll make sure Crystal gets off the phones.
Thing.
Nah, you should be alright. Pete's just happy to see you. Multi-gen household, folks. There's people in and out all the time, so. And I'm keeping them off camera because they don't want to be on camera. And I respect that. Well, unfortunately, I'm on a live, so you're going to have to hear a little bit of it. Yeah, well, I'm talking to very many important people. Yeah, I know. Well, I gotta do mine too. This is the disconnect I was talking about. You see it, don't you? You don't see it physically, but you can hear the background. And I hope you have those captions on. Let's see, it is currently 12:05. That's here in Georgetown, Illinois, folks. I don't know what time it is for some of you, but that's what it is in Illinois. So if you didn't know, you know now. And Dad's probably already sick of hearing this. Believe me, guys, he don't want to hear this. He knows all this already. He don't want to hear it because he knows it. He's lived it. He is older than me. He's basically older than me. So, believe me, I irritate the heck out of him without meaning to. That just happens in a multi-gen place. So anyway, we gotta try. I always try to keep my voice down because eventually they're gonna turn on the TVs and they're gonna want to hear their shows. And occasionally we all get into each other and there's whole matches over that one. Occasionally I've even had to turn off lives because of that. So we're doing our best, folks. We're doing our best. Man, kid me. If she could see me public speaking like this, she'd be like, what on earth? I'm pretty sure kid me would be locked to the core because I was that kid in writer seminar in high school that couldn't barely get 2 words out. And of course, I was writing cheesy love poems to high school boyfriends that were never going to work out in the first place. Yeah. Awkward. High school is always an awkward time. high school and middle school, those are real awkward. You better appreciate those kid days while you have them, because believe me, when you get into the higher grades, it's going to be a little bit different. But this is more to the elementary school kids. I appreciate what you got now, because you have no idea what you're in for in the future. So they're more fun than you think they are. They might not be so fun right now with all the educational crisis going on, but they're more fun than what you're giving them credit for. And that goes for every version of school. Now, I've seen many things where on the internet, these same kids who were claiming can't read, write, or do this, go home and they're like building 3D models and doing all this with Lego or IT, or they're doing all these art careers. They're going home and doing that because that's their true, authentic selves. That's who they really are. That's who we're overshadowing and forgetting exist. If we nurture those passions like some of my teachers did to me in high school, I think you'll get a much different result. And let me tell you, the thing that bugs me the most in education right now is the amount of teachers quitting because of mental health. Now, I understand some of you have to take a break for your mental health, but no one should be outright quitting, and here's why. The previous generations, the high school teachers I'm mentioning, they didn't just quit on us. They stayed when they should have left many of us troublemakers. And believe me, there were folks worse than me. I can assure you that. Yet they stayed and did everything they could to pass every single one of those troublemaking millennial kids. You know why they did that? Because they were excellent educators who cared what happened to kids. Even though we all probably hated some of them back then, they knew they'd have to prepare us for the future, and they did their absolute best to do that. And instead of quitting, they quietly retired, is what they did. They knew there would be problems in the future faced by our generation and the generations after us, but if they had given up on us kids, it would have been a whole different story. Many of you have given up on those very kids. You've given up on the next generations of those very children. That's sad. That's disappointing, and I'm so sad to see it. Now that I will actually cry about. Because the statement that kids are our future is so much truer than everyone thinks it is. You cannot have a future if you ship it off. You can have a future if you don't stay to raise it. Many of us are shipping these kids off abroad and shipping them off here and placing them here and placing them there. And we're just shipping everybody everywhere without trying to figure out who they are, what their interests are, and how we can help them in the education and mental departments and CPS. We're just shipping everybody off. And that is so stupid because you're shipping off America's future when you're doing that. Many of these kids end up fleeing when they get 18 to different countries because they know they won't have to worry about that threat. Many of them end up fleeing because of that, and I don't blame them one bit for doing that. I hope one day some of them can come home and help fix things here, but I don't blame them for leaving at all. Why would they want to stay if you're shipping them off for no good reason? Now, I'm going to say that people don't need help on occasion, but the level of help we're giving is called overhelping, and believe me, I'm very guilty of overhelping in my young life. I know what it is. I've done it several times. You can help. You can overhelp, and you can quit and not help. Or you can stay, you can make an impact, and you can make a difference. Those are the options. I'm sorry it's so black and white, and I'm sorry those are very bleak options, but they're the options. We also have to go back to a lot of our past generations that did this very thing before even the idea of school was a thing. Before they had physical schools, they had other schools. They might have been taught in traditional classrooms, but I assure you every generation and culture had their own schools. That is all throughout history. Go look that up if you don't believe me. There was always conflicts and fighting, and that's always going to happen because no one's ever going to fully understand each other. It's impossible in the human race to do that. We can try to make an effort to understand, but we can never be everybody because we aren't everybody. We are our own unique individual selves. A very harsh truth I've had to relearn over and over again, even at age 30. And I'll still be relearning it decades from now, I'm sure. So anyway, like some of my family, like My dad raised us very young. We got to the cemetery and put flowers on some of the family members' graves. The past, he tells me all about the stories of then and there. And then some of my family, I know, some of the badder sides on both sides, don't exactly do those traditions. And I think they're bad for it, but yeah, we all need a little bit more of an understanding. If we had a little bit more of an understanding, I think we could fix a lot of what's going on. Those same kids, I'll remind you all again, those same kids, those tablet and iPad and this generation, that generation kids, those kids are no more than us 20, 30, 50, whatever years ago. Our job is to prepare them for the next world when they'll be us having their own kids, and some of them are already at that point and already messed up because they have no idea what's even going on because we made them that way. The best we could do is get to the youngest generations and show them videos like this, videos like mine, and I know I'm trying to promote myself to make YouTube money, but my sister cares more about that than I do, believe me, folks. I want to be a community educator, so what we need to do is understand who these people are, what they are, and why they are. And, like, I've seen the, like, whole woke agenda. I now officially hate the word woke. Being one of the original versions of the word woke, that term needs to be thrown out. I don't care if some generations keep it, but that term needs to be thrown out. Most kids, at 5 to 6, if they see a rainbow in Target, are going to just think it's pretty and call her a picture. Many of them have no idea what they're going to be in the future, I can assure you. Because from the studies I've done, most people don't develop cognitively fully until 25 to 30. That's why I call younger adults really young adults, because they're still in the process of becoming the adults. They're very impressionable at that age, too. Even though you teenagers at 17, 18 don't think you're impressionable, you are so susceptible to getting into everything I mentioned in this video. You're more susceptible than you think you are, even though you're an adult. I know because I was you at 17, 18. So, America, the world, who's ever watching this, I hope you're paying attention. And by the way, go watch World Restricted Teacher because it explains some of this better than even I can. Yeah. Quick recap. There's a couple other creators that I've mentioned you should go watch too. Go watch these channels where people are talking about the problem. Educate yourself. Go do research. Oh, you shouldn't use Google or Wikipedia. Yeah, when I was in school, if you used Google or Wikipedia, you had to cite every single source because, remember, those are Cubans writing the articles and they can make mistakes. That's why. I hope we're still citing those sources today. If we're not, I'm very scared for the future. So anyway, go do what you need to do individually, but at the same time, younger students, don't be cussing out your teachers. Don't be yelling at them. Don't be like, oh, my parents suck. Yeah, that's gonna happen because that's life. But you gotta understand, those people are there because they want the absolute best for you. They want to help you. They want you not to be us. I don't want you to be a version of us. I want you to be way better. I gotta quit crying. It's making me sad to even say this. Everyone needs an understanding, and I know we have labels like autism and ADHD and this and that. I chose the label non-neurodivergent because I think that better describes it. I also chose normal divergence, or whatever I said earlier, to describe my dad because that's more what he is. I want to use more terms like that instead of just blaming everything on this, and that. Sure, you can have those personality traits. You can have that condition. You can have that. I'm still waiting to get my official paper from my doctor, folks. Well, I gotta touch base with him in a little while. We've got that on the schedule. Anyway, be who you are, but at the same time, don't let an entire generation of videos on those subjects base your whole personality and educational future on just those subjects. Because if you do, this is going to be a very sad world indeed. I can only reach a few of you. I can't reach everybody. I can only reach the few that are here. There's probably some that left and quit and got bored of me talking. There's probably some that stayed and like, oh, she's interesting. There's probably some even after I upload this that won't even bother to check it twice. Yeah, I know, I'm a human too. I have all the human traits. I urge you, the ones that have stayed and the ones that are actually interested, spread this message around. I know this live is going to take a while to upload, but you need to spread it around to everyone you can reach, everyone in the community, churches, teachers, schools, legislators, senators. I know some of these people seem impossible to reach, but they're not. They're humans too. You'll have to schedule appointments and enroll on their time schedule because they're busy trying to help things. But these people are not impossible to reach. We seem to think they are. We've put this pedestal on them that, oh, I can't go talk to a judge ever and I can't go to the Supreme Court ever. No, you can. You'll have to do a little weird filing to do so. But you can still get to that human eventually and show them things like this. Communities have to work together. If I'm going to be a community educator, I have to spread this message as far as I can. So go out, spread this message, and like I said, many people are not going to agree with the things I have said. That's okay. That's their business. There will always be the people who want to trap themselves in the older generation of Dark Ages, and there will always be those who want to move to the newer generation of the not-so-Dark Ages. But there's always going to be a disconnect in the middle somewhere about, oh, this is good, this is bad, and that is good, and that is bad. But if we all remember that we are a breed of species known as humans, and that we evolved so we could be those humans, I think we'll all be better off. Now, I know there's like fights about, oh, we evolved from fish, no, we evolved from monkeys, and no, God made us. Believe whatever you want to believe, but we are all somehow of the same species of a creature called a human. We are human beings, that is what we are, and we seem to have forgotten that. This is a lesson our ancestors learned very well, and it's why they had so many conflicts and wars and deaths back in the day, because they learned that lesson so well. And we're still repeating those same mistakes today, folks. There is wars and conflicts, and there always will be. But if we keep repeating what our ancestors did and never try to solve anything, we're not going to get anywhere, are we? So, I'm bored of talking. I'm tired. I'm millennial. I've got other responsibilities I got to get to because I'm 30 and I have a room to clean and paperwork to fill out. I got to go get a drink because I've been talking so long. And as we can see, the nose is running on camera again. That's fun. Guys, humans are disgusting. Learn that too. If you're a human, you're disgusting, whether you think you are or not. That just is life. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this message. Don't get mad that the live is not going to upload right away, because believe me, it's going to take a lot of processing, and my charging and storage habits are absolute garbage at this age. Still working on that. I'm working on a lot of things at 30, believe me. I still have much to learn, and I'm doing it the best I can. So anyway, I'll see you later, folks. I hope I entertained some of you. I hope some of you got really annoyed with me. But I also hope this message somehow gets spread around. I've seen other content creators do this, and I want to do it too. And believe me, folks, some of my videos are going to be even more fun in a little bit because I'm going to be talking monotone. I've seen that monotone YouTubers have been using, and I'm cashing in on that for sure. I also want to do a couple other things. I'm going to try and do a family-friendly version of the Welcome to the Internet song. Now, those that are 17, I'm going to say actually younger. I'm going to say like high school, any high school age, 17, 18. You need to pay attention to that song, Welcome to the Internet by Bo Burnham. It describes a lot of what is happening now. Don't just hear the song, pay attention to those lyrics. They cover a lot. Also, to do some research of the guy, and you'll get a surprise. His name is Bo Burnham. I'm not giving you all the info. You're going to have to do some of this work yourself. So, the high school ages, I urge you to watch those. Middle school and elementary, please watch that with your parents because some of that is very inappropriate and they need to explain to you in a kid-friendly way what that means. Remember, this is a community family channel, so we got to be careful. My dad's got something that might help the dog's skin. See, we're working on these medical issues with our pets, and we're working on our own medical issues and our own personal, mental, and whatever else issues. That's how real multi-gen households work. I don't know about the fake TV or YouTube or nonsensical crap you've been seeing, but this is how it actually works for most of us. And guys, some of those videos you're seeing is people trying to cash in on that sweet, sweet YouTube money, I can assure you. Believe me, do you really think any 30-year-old actually has time to cancel Gen C wearing ankle socks? There's like 50 of those in my house right now. Yeah. I don't have time to cancel your socks, folks. I don't give a crap what you wear. I barely care what I wear some days, unless I'm going in the general public. So, do with that info what you will. And by the way, guys, I know I'm going to get that OnlyFans comment on occasion. It's never happening on this channel. You've come to the wrong channel. If you're looking for that, go elsewhere. Okay, well, my dad's irritated hearing me, so I'm going to sign off the live. I'm going to stop bugging him. See you later, and I hope you all enjoyed. And guys, I'm bad at remembering where the stop buttons are. I'm still working on it. I know where they are. I just forget. I know they're up there. Some of them. Okay, I'll see you later. You all have fun. I hope you enjoyed. Spread this message around if you can. And if you're lazy and don't spread it around, well, that's on you.
Might kill half your audience doing that shit about